Well, good Sunday morning, guys. It is Sunday, January 22nd, 2017, and we have a new president.
All right. Awesome.
Finally, I did not believe we were going to make it. I was convinced that Obozo might try to pull something to stay in power. I am glad I was wrong. That's obviously not something we needed for the country. Have you guys, I recorded the inauguration. I was doing some work stuff on Friday. Normally I don't work Fridays, but I was able to go back actually this morning, watch him take the oath of office. I listened to his speech, which incidentally, two of the liberal propaganda outlets called militant. Good for you, you nut bags. Anyway, so do you guys have a chance to see it? Have you seen anything?
Well, I never got a chance to actually see anything related to the inauguration, other than the news clips and stuff like that. But I'm really excited. I can't wait to see what happens here in the early days.
Ty?
I was at the office, and the guys were going through it live, or as much as we could, as far as our internet capability is out there. But yeah, I was checking it out, and it was weird just that everything that he's saying, I mean, it was speaking to Americans. What he was saying in his speech that he wrote himself. Anybody else, Obozo, would have had to read it off of a teleprompter. I think he did when he was went through his inauguration. But I mean, it was a speech to, and just that's what it was. Whenever anybody else was sitting there, oh well, it's just propaganda or militant or whatever. That's just, they don't know how to deal with it.
You are exactly correct. I liked his speech. I thought it was really good. I know he did write his own speech. What I thought was very interesting was his use of the phrase, and Tom, when you get a chance, go back and find a clip of his inauguration speech. During that speech, he did talk about America first. We're going to move forward. Everything's going to be in America's best interest. What was interesting was his use of the phrase, well, he talked about, I don't have the exact phrase, but he talked about, we're not going to focus on the past. From this day forward, we're going to move forward. So what I'm speculating is that he is not going to prosecute Hillary Clinton for her crimes.
Yeah, and I did get some of that in some of the stuff that I was reading was that he was actually talking more about moving on, making America great again. Let's not focus on all the problems we've had, and things like that. And you're probably right. It probably means that he may not go after some people, and if he has to work with some people that are still in office, right? It might not be a bad choice for him, because he's really got to try and get things done as much as possible with some level of support.
I agree with that, and I'm very conflicted, because we need to have justice. I mean, with liberty and justice for all in this country, we need to have justice for the people. And there's too many politicians that have been committing too many crimes and getting away with it. And yes, you are absolutely correct. He has to work with these people, and going after her right off the bat, it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
The main thing, though, is that he can't undermine himself, but he has to undermine them. I mean, she wants people like Hillary Clinton that are in any sort of position of power are always trying to push their agenda. And if he wants to move forward, he has to silence her.
Yes. And I had been seeing before the inauguration that other than Obama, and actually I didn't even realize Obama would be there at his swearing in. I suppose it makes sense. I've never really watched an inauguration before. I've always been working, just never paid much attention to it, right? And every president except Bush Sr., who was in the hospital, was there. the Carters were there, the Clintons were there, which I thought was really interesting, and Bush Jr. was there.
Yep.
I'd been hearing that none of the former presidents were going to show up for the inauguration. That was very interesting to me.
Oh, just can't wait to make America great again.
I like what he's saying about make America great again. Again, I do not agree with him on this. And in his speech, he had that philosophy of let's all come together as a nation. Well, that's great. Let's all come together as a nation under liberty and freedom. If you don't have liberty and freedom, nothing else matters. And it's all about the people and the rights of the people first. We'll see what he does. Yes, he has to work with the people in the congressional members and the senators. And Hillary Clinton has committed so many crimes, it's just ridiculous. We'll see what happens with that.
Yeah.
Now on to one of my favorite stories of the week. A man in protest of Trump becoming president goes to the new, and Ty, I don't know if you're aware of this, or Tom, Trump opened a couple months ago before he was sworn in. It was November, December. He opened and I guess this had been planned all along. He bought the old Washington, D.C. post office building and turned it into a hotel, and it's now called the Trump International Hotel. A man goes in front of the hotel and in protest of Trump becoming president, lights himself on fire. And I say we encourage this behavior.
Well, the doofus didn't get it right, though. He has non-life-threatening injuries. I mean, it wasn't much of a protest, was it? Next time he needs to get it right.
He didn't finish the job. You are correct.
Yeah, and Lee, and you and I actually talked about this earlier in the week. You know, the simple fact that you know this guy would do something like that. I told Lee, Ty, I was like, you know, regardless of his idiocy, I got to admire the guy's conviction. He was willing to take it to another level to really, you know, voice his opinion. So yeah, as far as encouraging it, that's fine. Maybe they can get additional health care through until Obamacare gets repealed. So we'll see where that goes.
I want to be very clear, make the disclaimer right now for the show. We are not encouraging anybody to harm themselves or commit suicide. And this is the Liberty and Freedom Show, right? We believe in personal liberty. If you want to take your own life, I don't encourage that, and that is your right. So if you believe that killing yourself by setting yourself on fire to protest Trump as president, the first person I would encourage is Michael Moore. Michael Moore, set yourself on fire in protest of Trump.
Third.
Yeah. No, the other thing, and I'm not sure, I don't have the quote, but it was reported in him saying that he had lit something on fire around him, and then later had caught himself on fire. A witness said the flames were going up his back.
There's been conflicting reports. The article that I'm looking at right now, he apparently told an NBC reporter that he deliberately tried to set himself on fire. Yes, he was burning a pile of clothes or something in front of the hotel and may have actually accidentally set himself on fire. Who knows? The reports I've seen across the board are that he did it deliberately. We'll figure that. We'll find out what's happening there. And look, if your life is so horrible now that Trump has become president, feel free to do one of two things. Leave the country, get out, or end it all and rid the people that want liberty and freedom of your cultish lifestyle. The next topic to talk about, and this was very interesting to me, that while the inauguration was going on Friday, the Senate was busy working. Now, I don't know if it was later in the day after the actual inauguration, because according to what I'm reading, both General Mattis and General Kelly, General Mattis for the Department of Defense and General Kelly for leading Department of Homeland Security, were both confirmed. And Senator Schumer was actually on the podium at the election. So all I can think is that he was either allowed to enter his vote in absentia and then the rest of the Senate was working, or he was part of the Senate later in the day after the actual swearing in took place. They confirmed both men 98-1. Senator Sessions did not vote because he's up for confirmation. And one lone senator from the state of New York, some woman, voted no for both of them. 98 senators voted. So I'm very excited about these two.
No, I'm actually pretty excited about this. If you go into the history of these two guys, you believe that they have a good sense of service to the country, that they believe in freedom, and so I am actually very excited. Part of this also was, and I don't know if you guys read this in the articles, but there was actually a special exception that had to be made to allow General Mattis to become the Secretary of Defense, because it's only been about 6 years that he's actually been out of active uniform for the military, and the law actually required at least 7 years. So they actually did make an exception to make this happen, which again just kind of reinforces to me that maybe we're back on the right track, that they're willing to do what's right and not necessarily just throw in little nuances because to try and stop it, just to prove a point.
Yeah, when you have something like that, I mean, just go figure. You have one person that votes against from New York, Democrat from New York. Go figure. Just to have someone they must have known, or he's qualified for this position, ready to go.
And I do want to make one clarification. Mattis was approved 98-1. General Kelly was approved 88-11.
Yeah.
It was still a huge majority.
It's still a landslide. It's still huge.
Yes, still a huge majority. I just wanted to clarify for the facts to make sure we're accurate. Kelly was approved 88-11. All right, let's talk about the big thing that happened here in Arizona last week. A Department of Public Safety here in Arizona, if you're watching the show here in Arizona, our state troopers are referred to they're under the Department of Public Safety. Everybody says DPS here. So our state trooper responds to a rollover accident on I-10 out in, Tom, do you remember the name of the town? Tonopah?
Yeah, Tonopah, about 50 miles outside of Phoenix.
A state trooper responds to a rollover accident out in Tonopah, and the man who caused, or who wasn't, let me rephrase, I'm not sure who caused the accident. There was a man and woman who were in the car when it rolled over. They were both illegal immigrants, by the way. The man in the car, turns out he was a former Mexican federal law enforcement officer. He was in the country illegally. He starts attacking the state trooper. Two people stop along the road, 2 other drivers. One of the drivers, specifically as the cop is wrestling with this illegal immigrant, asks the state trooper, "Do you need assistance?" And the state trooper says yes. Now, the article that I've read, the civilian then goes back to his car, gets his gun, and then comes back and confronts the illegal immigrant that is attacking the state trooper, and ends up shooting and killing this guy.
Yeah, and this is actually an interesting story, Lee, because as it turns out, we actually might know a little bit more about the female that was in the rollover accident. It turns out that we actually have a relationship through a friend of a friend of a friend, so it's nothing real close or anything like that. So, but anyways, it does look, and I actually did a lot of reading, or a lot of different articles, because the storylines are actually quite conflicting as to the actual series of events. So I'm not exactly, I would not say that I'm clear on everything that actually happened. But there was like reports of shots before the rollover action, and that the trooper was actually responding to that report when he came across the rollover action. And partly that makes more sense to me, and I'll say this, because the trooper was shot twice, yet this individual was physically attacking him. So maybe he ran out of bullets or something like that. But you know, I can't say enough about an armed citizen coming to the aid of a trooper. Not only because, you know, the Second Amendment rights and the rights of the people to carry firearms are constantly under attack, but just with all the other things that you've seen in the news where people have been against law enforcement. I love the story about citizens actually helping law enforcement.
But yeah, the guy wasted a lot of time having to go back for his gun. He's like, you need help? I mean, he wasn't really ready. But, you know, thank God he got there in time to save this officer's life. And I got to think about some of the other things, people he might have saved. I mean, we don't know what this guy, if this person hadn't shown up, maybe he was a little late in some of it, but ready to act anyway. You still have a fugitive out there. Next, we don't know. Carjack someone. I mean, who knows how many lives he actually saved in the long run.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's just a great story of an armed good guy stopping an armed bad guy.
Yes, and it's a good example, at least in the article that I read. The Good Samaritan actually asked the officer, "Do you need assistance?" He didn't just intervene, which I think is vitally important to point out, because so many people, it's a huge responsibility carrying. I mean, I carry the two, right? I carry the twins here, and I am very cognizant all the time, because I open carry so blatantly, being very careful of who's around me, what's going on, and not just having an attitude that I'm just going to jump in when I see something going on. There's a lot of, you don't know if the good guy got the upper hand. I just want to point that out. I thought it was very interesting that this officer, or the Good Samaritan, asked the officer, "Do you need assistance?"
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, situational awareness is paramount when you're carrying. I mean, in everything, you have to stay of everything you're coming across, and that's something you'd have to ask. I mean, I was telling you a long time ago about pictures that have been taken in Iraq, where I had a young Marine helping out an older Iraqi person. On his face as he's picking him up, pictures are taken of that, and I was there. I know he was helping him out. It looked to other people like they were in a struggle. So how do you know who's the good guy in a situation, who's the bad guy in a situation with that? All he did was come onto a scene and see an officer there and someone else. You don't know he didn't know exactly who shot him or what. So he could have wound up shooting another innocent bystander or anything like that, not knowing the situation. So always best to ask, if you can.
Yes, exactly. That's a good thing.
And not only that, I mean, part of the story actually indicates that this Good Samaritan actually shot this Escobar guy a couple of times, you know, incapacitating him. But really, the fatal shot didn't happen until he tried to attack again. So obviously, you know, it's not like deadly force was used immediately. And I don't know whether that was intentional or not, but obviously this guy wasn't necessarily completely out until the second attempt at an attack. Well, yeah, and we kind of talked about this during last week's show, about how we're kind of being surrounded from troops. My big question is obviously, strategy, is we can tell that there's strategy related to where these troops are being reported being seen, and we talked about that last week. But my big question, and something that I'll definitely keep an eye on is why? Why would there be 4,000 troops? And not only that, in some of the articles that we read, they say the 4,000 troops, but yet they might be working with cartels and just stuff like that. Just makes no sense as to what exactly the plan is. I could tell you, Lee, you know this, that we might not be able to fight them all off if something does happen, but I'll turn a few heads into canoes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know what to think of the situation in a lot of ways too, just because. I mean, here we have the previous thing we're talking about, where it's one with a couple people involved in that rollover accident and the officer thing, and yet we don't even know all the facts. So sightings of these people, why is it exactly 4,000? I don't know. I don't really know how to speak to all that. All what is concerning though is we're here in America. We have a lot of people that can't stand that we have these liberties, and they're looking to take them away from us. So in our previous administration didn't care about our border security, and it's vital. We're going around securing other borders, making all kinds of decisions, and not even taking care of our own. So the concern to me is, it was wishing us harm is going to go for the weakest entry point, any of the weakest entry points. So I don't know. Seeing them amassed in a place, or 4,000 troops here or there, I don't know how to speak to that, but we definitely need to.
Exactly. We do need a secure border, and that's why I'm so excited about General Kelly taking over as the head of the Department of Homeland Security. And I'm going to make an assumption that with Trump's philosophy of American First, he looked for patriots, for people that believe in securing the border and making sure that we are protected and we know who's coming in and who's not coming in. It's going to be interesting. And yes, Tom, I agree with your philosophy. You might get me in a rush, but not before I make your head into a canoe. A cheesy movie reference there, but that's exactly correct. People need to be armed. You need to keep your eyes open. I don't know what's going on. I believe there are a lot of foreign troops on our soil, and there appears to be a lot of sightings to that effect. It's going to be interesting to see what happens as Tom, you and I think we talked about in the first episode as well, Ty, we were all three on. We know that the people who backed Hillary Clinton, the George Soroses, all of these insane megalomaniacs that want to control our lives and destroy the country, they're not just going to go away because Trump won. They're going to do everything to subvert him, to work behind the scenes and try to disrupt everything good he's doing to make America great again. That's what's going to be interesting. And I truly believe that we are in a more dangerous time than ever because of that, because we don't know what's coming. If Hillary had won the election, we knew what was coming. Yeah, we may have not known all the details, but we knew she was going to try to take away our guns. We knew that she was going to get us in a war with Russia almost immediately. Not that Obozo wasn't attempting to do that, but she just would have been outright blatant about it. Now, we don't know what's coming. We can't see the subversion that's going on. And that's where I feel like we are in a more dangerous time than ever. Your thoughts on that?
All I can say about this is that I think people should get armed, become self-reliant, and be aware of what's going on. Again, we kind of talked about this last week. You never know what's going to happen, but the simple fact that you are getting all these reports that so many troops are all around us leads you to believe that something very well could happen. And like you said, Lee, these people that opposed Trump now just become even sneakier. So it's harder to tell what's coming and from what direction. So all you can do is really just be prepared.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm not sure what to say on all of that. We just have to, read between the lines of what's coming. Stay educated, up to date, keep reading these different articles and trying to piece it together. We're going through and what threats are on our borders or attempting to get through our borders. I'm not sure. Maybe a lot of this was kind of planned. I mean, you think about Hillary Clinton, and she wanted to have the most transparent, administration. She talked about that. Obozo talked about that, and they're nothing but secrecy and lies and backwards deals. So we don't know if that's what it was. She had some other plan coming up, and they've been funding stuff. They wanted chaos. They wanted something coming over the border secretly, open them up. And then with Trump's election, a lot of that just wrenched right in the machine. With some of them backed in a corner or whatnot, we'll just have to pay attention. But I agree with Lee that it make this an even scarier time.
Yes, and let's end the show there.